Hey guys, Dabu7, we got a situation here where the Trump administration is buying up mega warehouses across the country. This is no joke. To turn them into detention centers. They say that protests are popping up all over the place because people are ticked off about this idea and questions are being raised that are legitimate. How come nothing like this was talked about before? And how come all the illegals that have been shipped out of the country can't be shipped out the same way they've been being shipped out, which is immediately? Why, all of a sudden, do you want to hold them in this country en masse? The cost to acquire just 2 warehouses is $172 million. A third is going up in El Paso, Texas, and it could be among the largest jails of any kind that has ever been built when it's done. Right? These deals are going to put 23 warehouses up across the country to deal with alleged migrants. Okay? But people are saying, how is this possible? Because you're not holding them in mass anywhere else. You haven't done so this whole time. You've just been able to get them and take them out of the country, which was what was promised. It was never said that they were going to be housed and kept in a jail in this country. Okay? Now, some people that are small-minded and short-sighted and can't see that all the laws Trump is putting on the books will be flipped and turned against them down the road. That's exactly what all this could be set up for.
Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles and elders at the Great Millstone who teach and rule well. And peace and salutations to the elect out there feeding the sheep of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai. I'm the brother Barak. Lord willing, this will be an edifying lesson. And as you can see, mass concentration camps are being built, right, being set up, right? And who's that for? It's for us, right? For the Israelites, right? And first it was, the Northern Kingdom, Jakes, right? So-called Mexicans, so-called, Guatemalans, right? And, now Esau, he's taking up everybody, right? He's taking at, Levites, right? Judites, Gadites, speckled bird, he don't give a fuck, right? This Esau, he doesn't give a fuck. He's basically taking up everybody now. Anybody he can either kill, right, or put in a concentration camp. He's gonna start doing that, right? And this whole ICE thing is, immigration thing. It was never about immigration, right? It was about control. It was about depopulating, right? It was about getting people on that RFID microchip, right? Which is the mark of the beast. This is what this devil, his ultimate new world order, his goal really is, right? This book of Revelation 3 and 10, it says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the earth, come upon all the worlds to try them that dwell upon the earth, right? This is what this devil is doing. He's about to, we're about to enter that time of the hour of temptation where he's going to cause everybody to take that RFID microchip, right? Those who are going to be saved out of it was what? The Lord's elect, right? Nothing terrible can happen to the Lord's elect, right? If the Lord is dealing with you, he already knows what's, how you're going to get delivered out of this place, how you're going to go out, how you're going to, if you're going to be martyred, right, for the sake of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? This is Revelation 20:4. It says, and I saw those, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushai, and for the word of Yahweh, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai 1,000 years, right? So what? There might be certain individuals that get martyred, right? Certain individuals that get beheaded, right, for not taking that mark of the beast, right? But the thing is, the Lord, he might even, that's actually a good thing, because what? You might get beheaded, you might get killed, you might get shot, you might get tortured, but you might not even feel a thing, right? Your spirit might already left your body, right? Where, we won't even know. There's scripture on that. I don't know the exact scripture, but, we're not going to even, if that happens, you might not even feel it, right? And, the thing is about these beheadings, right? These are the prophets. We're seeing these, right? John the Revelator, right? When he was on the island of Patmos, the Lord was giving him visions of what was going to happen in the distant future, right? And, he was seeing people being beheaded, right? And you can see, if you just look up, like, guillotine Barack Obama, or, guillotines, like something along that nature, right? You'll be able to find this, and probably a few others, but I came across this, right? It says National Defense Act, Authorization Act for 2009, right? And then if you just go and type in, the find tab, right, you'll be able to find, you just type in the word guillotine, and all these things will pop up, right? Which they were, as far as I heard, they were basically during the Barack Obama administration, right? They were basically buying up guillotines, right? Buying up all these weapons, right? Preparing for that New World Order, right? So they have these tools, right? And don't be surprised when they start implementing those, right? But because you're not going to hear about it when inside those concentration camps, you're not going to hear about that, right? They're going to just fucking start using them. There's going to come a time where they're going to start, there's going to become a time where if you didn't take that chip, these people could just say, fuck it, we're just going to chop your goddamn head off, right? And it says, if you zoom in, it says, if you go down, it says guillotine would provide commanders with a non-lethal capability to disrupt, it says something like terrorist operations, right? So damn well, these people, man, they're going to bring out those, beheadings, man. They're going to bring out, they can be bringing out, firing squads, right? But they're most certainly bringing out those concentration camps, right? We've been prophesying, this for years now, right? However they do it, man, you already know there's going to be a lot of mass casualties, right? And the thing is, you people, you didn't want to hearken unto the words of the prophets, right? Well, you're just gonna have to pay the consequences, right? Because when we shut those phones off, right? When we stop going on the highways and byways, you're gonna be looking for us, and you're not gonna be able to find us, because by then we're gonna be, the Lord is gonna keep us from that hour of temptation, right? This is the book of Amos 3:7. It says, surely the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai will do nothing unless he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets, right? We are the prophets, right? We're the mouthpieces of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And those who didn't listen to the prophets, well, they're gonna have to suffer the consequences, right? Our people, they're so fucking foolish, man. They don't listen. They just want to, they want to, make music, play basketball all day, right? Get involved with gangs, and get involved with just folly, right? Get involved with just play video games all day. They'll do everything and anything but hearken unto the words of the prophets, right, do anything but serve, the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And as a consequence for being rebellious, you could get put into that, detention center, that concentration camp, right? I got this screenshot from, I believe it was the brother in Kansas. It says ICE pivots to warehouses identified by ICE to convert into immigration detention facilities, right? So as you can see, these devils, man, they're using their softwares, right? They're using their technology to start locating warehouses to start putting people in, right? This is the type of shit that's going down in Babylon, right? You can't even walk out on the street anymore. You can't even you can't even go outside your house. ICE will come and do a drive-by on you, right? Pick you up, right? Put a blindfold over your fucking head and take you to a fucking detention center in the middle of fucking alligator Alcatraz, right? That's the type of shit that's happening, right? This is the book of Psalm, chapter 91 and 7. It says, 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee, right? Why? Because the Lord, he'll put a certain spirit on individuals not to do anything, right? While he'll put the spirit on these other people, the rest of these people, to attack them, right? Kidnap them, rape them, rob their house. But around you, the Lord will put his angels to encamp it around you, right? And then the Lord is also going to give us spiritual powers to where these people, they're not going to be able to do anything, right? So that's why we have to have trust in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? The Lord, he's making sure his prophets, right, his men are protected. Proverbs 8 and 17, it says, I love them that love me, and those that seek me early shall find me. Right? There's only going to be a limited time window to seek the Lord while he may be found. Right? After that, the windows will close, and you won't be able to find any of our videos, right? Any of the apostles' videos, the elders, the rest of the brothers, right? You're not going to find us on the streets, right? You're not going to find, you're not going to even get the proper breakdowns of the scriptures, right? You're going to see a lot of people trying to get their hands on scriptures, the Bibles, right? And, they're not going to be able to understand it because they're going to be in that spirit of Latin, trying to get understanding at the last minute, right? Like they treat this like a fucking test or a fucking quiz, pop quiz. This is no fucking pop quiz where you can just start just cramming, trying to figure things out at the last minute. By then it's too late, right? Unless the Lord is giving you mercy, right? Which there will be some people the Lord has mercy on, the very last, moments, right? But a lot of people they're ultimately gonna perish because they didn't seek the Lord early, right? So with that being said, I'm gonna give all glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, right? Pay attention to these prophecies, right? The concentration camps are coming, right? The detention centers are coming. The mass implementation of the RFID microchip, the mark of the beast, it is coming, right? And double honors to the apostles and the elders at Great Millstone who teach and rule well. Peace and salutations to the Lord's elect out there, continuing to feed the sheep of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Shalom.